What if it was possible to have local, fresh groceries delivered right to your door? Think of all the free time you'd have. Well, Instacart gives unlimited grocery delivery for one low monthly fee. Forgot that special ingredient in your favorite dish? Instacart can deliver it to your front door in as fast as 1 hour. You can shop multiple stores, see deals in your area, and save time and money. I've been using Instacart for over 3 years. I started using them in Arizona, and I'm using them here in Florida. I love the time-saving convenience. They pick the freshest products, and they keep my eggs safe too. To receive your first delivery free, follow the link in the show notes so that Instacart knows that we sent you and to help support the show. Instacart. Never step foot in a grocery store again. Welcome to Empowered Within, a soul-quenching, transformational podcast that will set your soul on fire through candid and inspiring conversations. Leading experts, celebrities, healers, and I share our journeys of how we've overcome challenges to living an empowered life from within. I'm your host, Jennifer Pilates. Welcome to another episode of Empowered Within. Hi there and welcome to the show. I am honored to have with us our guest today, Rick Ornelas. He is an author and positive change expert who teaches men and women to unlock their amazing potential to create an incredible future and change the world around them. He's the author of the best-selling book, 12 Hours of Heaven, Lessons for a Better World, and founder of iSpark Change, a global movement and online community of those who seek to make the world a better place one act at a time. Rick wasn't always interested in helping others on a global scale, despite being pushed repeatedly in that direction by near-death experiences, family tragedies, and deaths. It wasn't until the ever-worsening times of 2020 when he was laid off, quarantined, and desperate that he finally got the wake-up call he needed. His awakening came in the form of a divine inspiration, an awe-inspiring connection when he least expected it. He went from hopeless to writing a best-selling book in under 3 months while envisioning and creating an incredible future. This fulfilled the dream he had been ignoring for years, to build a community of amazing souls to spread positivity, hope, and love while creating a ripple effect throughout the world. Welcome to the show, Rick. I'm so honored to have you with us today.
Hi, Jennifer. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on Empowered Within. Thank you.
I'm so honored to have you. I have to say, I absolutely loved your book. Couldn't put it down. I read it so quickly. It was so inspiring. I love it. I read it's 20 years in the making.
Yeah, yes, that is true. Because the story was inspired after I was in a major car accident 20 years ago with my family. And at the time, after going through that accident, I went through a period of reflection. And that's where the idea for the story just hit me one day like a movie as I was staring up at this little angel pin that my mother had given me to put in the car and have our guardian angel protect us, as they had in our accident, according to her and me and lots of others. But that's where the idea for the story came. And I just didn't do anything with it for 20 years until you fast forward to last year. And that's when I decided to finally write.
Was this a quick write for you once you actually sat down?
It didn't start out that way. So it's my first book. And being my first book, I did some research on writing and the recommendations of experts on how to write. And they say, just make sure you write every day and write consistently and give yourself a goal like 500 or maybe 1,000 words a day. And so I started in that process in early April of 2020. And I started writing just very methodically. And I was going about it the methodical way. And when I hit around June, things really shifted. And that's where I started feeling like I was having this spiritual awakening and being given the story that it wasn't coming from me, that it was coming from somewhere else. And my writing flourished. I went over 2,000 words in a couple hours each day. And I ended up finishing the book in under 3 months in a very short period of time, when I thought it would take me 6+ months. And it was like less than 3 months, just start to finish.
That's incredible. So within 2020, you wrote it and you published it.
Yes, that's right.
It's incredible.
Yeah, and that's not the norm.
No.
What happened, and then there's lots of people that publish books quickly, but what happened was when I was going through that spiritual awakening, I felt it was such a deeply personal time that I didn't share what I was going through with anyone, not even my wife or anyone, because I felt this deep personal connection with God. And I really didn't understand what was going on, but it was really special and I didn't want it to end. And so I just kept that to myself and I just went about my writing and, I'd come in my office and write each day and I didn't really say much. And then when I finished the book, I felt this deep urge to share with anyone that I could, like go scream from the mountaintops what had been happening with me, that I'd been going through this period and it lasted like 6 weeks where it was like dreams and visions and all these crazy things that were going on with me and my writing. So I felt this deep urge to share. So I shared, I put a video on Facebook and then I said, I need to get this book out right away. Like I need to get it published as soon as possible. And so I looked at the publisher route and that was going to take like 18 months, maybe a year. And I'm like, okay, that's too late. Like by that time, people are struggling right now. They need some inspiration, some hope. And I felt, this has to get out quickly. So a friend of mine put me in touch with a publishing consultant that has helped him when he wrote his book. And she said, it's going to be a lot of work, but you can get it done in a few months if you really, work the editing and, follow up, just everything. And so the book came out. We're coming up on the anniversary next month. It came out October 14th of last year. So just after, just a couple of months to go through that whole process to get it ready to be released.
That is absolutely incredible. And congratulations on your anniversary. This is so exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that because it just brings back all those memories that I had at this time last year and everything I was going through.
Yeah, what an incredible time. So prior to being an author, what were you doing? Because you just seemed to, everything sort of pivoted for you. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it did, Jennifer. It really did because I had been... I had been, still am a business coach. I had a business coaching business, strategic medical coaching, teaching doctors the leadership and business skills needed to have a successful practice. And I started that in 2015. But what happened was last year when the pandemic hit and things slowed down, a lot of my clients and their chiropractors and MDs and psychologists, their practices slowed down and they needed either to put my services on hold or some of them needed to stop. So I found myself with a bunch of time, not a lot of revenue coming in, and got anxious and a little fearful and not knowing what the future held. And then I wrote a blog article about using the time as an opportunity to be grateful for what you have and to help others. And in doing so, I was like, okay, now you need to write that book that's been in your head for 20 years. And these little signs have been coming, for a couple of years, like, hey, you should write. And I hadn't. And then I was like, okay, now you have no more excuses, right? There's no reason not to write, but that's what led to the writing process. And then in the writing, that's where I had more changes, like starting a whole another organization, I Spark Change, to spread positive change and empower others to elevate their social impact. And I still have my other company, but I'm, like juggling the writing with the one company and the other company and just, yeah, a lot of pivots, a lot of changes.
I love the story because how incredible that during such a traumatic time in all of our lives, you brought us such an incredible, inspiring book.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. I'm glad that it inspired you and others because when I wrote, that was my whole goal, was that if I can, I feel that what the story I've been given is going to inspire others in some way, right? Mm-hmm. There were others that were struggling like I was. There was others that were going through difficult times. And that's why it was so important for me to get it out as soon as possible, because I was like, hey, there's people that are not in a good place right now. Because I had been one of them, right? I had been one of them that was not in a great place before I started writing. And I wanted to help to give them some hope and inspiration. So I'm glad to hear that it did for you. And
it was, for me personally, it was an incredible read. Like I said, I mentioned I couldn't put it down. And I've already bought 3 or 4 additional copies for Christmas presents. It was just, it's such a loving story. This is what we need. And I kept envisioning, and I'm going to put this out there for you, movie. This would make an incredible movie, or I will age myself, after school special. Do you remember back in the day, like you'd rush home from school and there would be these after school specials for those of you who may not remember that. And I thought, what an incredible series this book would make.
Yes. So you're right on track with what I've been thinking, because when I first had the idea for the book, when I'm sitting in my car and reflecting that day, and the story hit me like a movie. It hit me like I had just watched it. You know, when you come out of a theater, for example, I mean, hopefully people still go to the theater. You watch a movie and then afterward, you know, if you liked it, you want to tell somebody about it and you have it all fresh in your head. Well, that's how it was for me with the story. And so I've always envisioned it as a movie. And then some of the early reviews that came in were like, oh, this would make a great Hallmark movie, or, you know, this should be a series on Netflix. So I've sought to have screenwriters read it. And there's one who's reading it right now, but I'm trying to connect with some others, some people to read it. And I've always seen it that, and I know in my heart that it will become, you know, a movie. It will be made in some capacity. So we'll see what that looks like. Hey, I used to love those after school specials, so I'd be fine with that. Or, you know, Netflix would be great, because, you know, that would be the equivalent of today's after school special, I guess.
I guess so, right? I could totally see this as a Hallmark. And as you were speaking, and who I started thinking of was Kathy Lee Gifford. I don't know if you know who she is, but she's just in Tennessee now. So she's right close to you. Oh, really? This would be right up her alley.
Yeah, and maybe that's someone I can connect with. I hadn't thought of that. I hadn't really envisioned who would produce or who would be the characters or anything like that. But I've always felt strongly about the characters, that they could be portrayed excellent in, you know, on the screen. Mm-hmm.
Oh, amazingly so. I get such goosebumps talking about it. And I also felt like at the end, it is a happy book. It's an inspiring, like your heart just feels good. Like I was teary-eyed at the end. And I thought I didn't want it to end. Yeah. I felt like, okay, so there's got to be something more coming. Because I felt there's got to be something more. So tell us, Rick, is there something more that's coming after it? Because I'm like, I would love to see what's next.
Yes. So you're correct, Jennifer. There is something coming. I always envisioned the story when I originally started writing. So I'll give you a little secret here. When I originally started writing, I thought the story was going to continue, that there was going to be more to the story than the way it ended. Okay. That, you know, just essentially the time in the elevator. But then as I started writing and it started taking shape, then I realized, okay, this is the story. This is what the story is. And this is where this one has to end. So the second part, I've started in the early phases of writing that one, you know, with the outline and the structure and the characters. And my working title is 12 Hours of Heaven, Time on Earth for that one. But that is essentially the next stage in the story, you know, the next phase of the story of what happens afterward.
I love it. And I can already envision the third book, because then it's going to be transitioning back to heaven. Yeah,
so another thing I'll share is that in that time when I was sharing, remember I said when I had finished, I wanted to share with everyone about, you know, my book was coming and everything. And I even did a Kickstarter campaign to help with the publishing, because it was all coming out of my pocket and I needed to get things done quickly. Well, as I was sharing about the book with a friend of mine one day, and she's someone that has two young sons, you know, they're like 8 and 10. And she was like, oh, I'd love to, you know, share it with them. And is it appropriate for them? And I was like, well, you know, some parts maybe you can share, but maybe the 10-year-old, you know, the 8-year-old might be a little young. I think he was even 7 at the time. I'm like, yeah, it'd be maybe a little too advanced for him. But as we were chatting about this and what some of the different lessons that she was sharing with her boys about gratitude, and because she had read it and she started to share different things with her boys. As we're talking, the idea for 6 additional books hit me. Bam, just like that, where I was like, okay, now I have the next 6 that I need to write in the series. So you're right. There are more books to be written. I just need to get around to writing them, I guess. Right?
Well, I, for one, am super excited because I loved it. I just felt like I had met like family that I didn't know I had. It was really great and so special. What is one?
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Of course. What is one thing that you hope your readers take away from your book after reading?
you ready to lose inches, increase strength, and tone your body from head to toe? Are you ready for a total body, mind, and spirit transformation? I am excited to announce that I am launching my exclusive 8-week Pilates Return to Life training program. This will give you an opportunity to have a total body, mind, and spirit transformation of health and wellness to a new lifestyle. Imagine in 7 days you will feel a difference, in 14 days you will see a difference, and in 8 weeks you will have your new Pilates body. So what do you say? Want to join me on the mat? Head over to jenniferpilates.com today. Space is limited. Use this special promo code EW and the word special, EW special, to receive $200 off while space is available. Head on over to jenniferpilates.com and I'll see you on the mat.
The biggest lesson, if you will, that I want people to take away from them, because there's lots, right? There's lots of the lessons, and I have in there Lessons for a Better World. I guess it's actually twofold. I'm gonna start over and say that it's twofold. Two things I want them to take. One is that I want them to relate to one of the characters in some way, right? I want there to be some connection that they can see themselves and they learn something from what one of the characters goes through, or maybe multiple characters, right? That would be the first thing I would say. And then the second, which really goes for anyone, and I talk about this for I Spark Change as well, is that for them to believe that they can make a difference in the world, that they can make the world a better place. And no matter who they are, no matter how tiny they may feel that they are, or feel the place that they take in this world is, that they still can make a difference, whether it's, a teenager or an 80-year-old grandmother, or, anyone in between, that they can make a difference and they can make the world better. That's what I really try to impart to anyone I speak with, is that you can make a difference, no matter who you are.
I think that's great. And your book does. Your book will make a difference in everyone's life. And it does. It goes over every generation. It's amazing. Prior to your book, were you a spiritual person, a religious person?
Yes. So I have been all my life, at different phases, mm-hmm. right? Kind of waxes and wanes at different points in your life. And I had been feeling that draw over the years become closer and closer and closer and more spiritual. And that was, I have 3 daughters, and they're all, they range from 18 to 24. So they're all grown now, but in the time of, and I think that's part of why I didn't write the book 20 years ago, is because I wasn't ready as an individual. I wasn't ready spiritually. I wasn't ready to share these type of lessons with others, as I was still learning so many of these, and I still work on those every day. But my spirituality needed to get to a place where I was much farther along, felt a lot more comfortable, and felt like I, had some wisdom to share with others.
Well, you certainly have. Throughout your journey of, especially this last year, but overall, what is the biggest aha moment that you've had during this process?
The biggest aha moment, I would say, is that there are so many people across the world that I've encountered in the past, year and a half, that have had a similar experience to mine. There's so many people that I've connected with on Zooms and calls and in groups and online and everything, that they've had a similar kind of awakening, if you will, or a similar rebirth, or they've pivoted in some dramatic fashion. And I think the biggest aha is that, this, for all the negativity or problems that have come with the pandemic, that I think history will really look back on this time as almost like a period of enlightenment, or a Renaissance period in history, where people grew and changed and evolved far beyond where they were before. And it's just every person I speak to, almost every person, like, oh yeah, I've done this and that. And it's been a result of, either being forced into isolation or having more time than they ever had to do something that they could never do before, or whatever it is. But there's just so many individuals that they're on this whole new path, I guess, because of what the world's been going through.
It's been quite an amazing time. That's for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And I do believe that there's a lot of beautiful things like your book that have come out of this. It's like you're saying, it has been an incredible, enlightening time all around.
Yeah, me too. Mm-hmm. And I hear that from many others. And, even you with the idea for your podcast, right? And then, right. Getting that going. I mean, it's all in this time.
Yeah, it has been. I mean, we've all pivoted in some way, and we've been guided to inspire and empower and help people around the world. And you definitely are doing that. It's so inspiring. For a listener who's saying, well, I have a book in me, like he did this in how many months? What was your process for someone who's saying, well, geez, there's a book in me, Rick, like help me. How did you do it? The practical side of it. How did that happen for you?
It was... I looked up, I just go on Google and I started looking up, what are the best way to write a book? And I read something from, I think it's one of Brian Tracy's things about writing a book. And he's written like 100 books. So I figured he would know. But really, the biggest thing I think that I would tell an author or a potential author is that they just need to take action and they just need to start writing. They just need to start writing, because once you start writing, and to be consistent with the writing, just write on a regular basis, and whatever that means for them. If it means writing once a week, great. If it means writing every day, great. But just that you make that commitment to write regularly and you get started in the first place, because there's a lot of folks that I've spoken with that they say they have a book, and like me, they just they haven't started, and actually 20 years ago after my accident, I wrote like a page. I typed out a page on my computer, and then I never did anything with it. And I went back to life and totally forgot about it. And it wasn't until, just past couple of years, I started thinking about it again and realizing, this is a story I need to tell. So I would just say to get started. And I have had, in fact, I had someone over the weekend on Instagram contact me because she's interested in writing a book, writing her first book. And I've had probably at least, 8 or 10 people contact me about the same thing. Hey, I want to write a book. I've never written a book. How did you do it? But what worked for me, Jennifer, was just being consistent. So I said, okay, I'm going to write every day. I gave myself a goal. I'm going to write at least 500 words a day. And then I kind of bumped that up to 1,000. And then, when things started going great, then it, just went well beyond that. And I set a time and had the luxury of having the time, being at home with the pandemic. But even if someone's working or whatever it is, they set that time that it's, hey, I'm going to write every Saturday morning, or, every Tuesday and Thursday evening at 6 p.m. That's my writing time. Just anytime, but just set it. And then whatever comes out, just let it flow.
That's excellent advice. And now, as far as how you funded, because you funded your own process for publishing, how did that work for you?
Well, I had to, luckily my friend, one of my mentors, Danny Bader, he put me in touch with this consultant that he had used. So she was a coach that came with a cost, but that cost was one that I was willing to invest in because it shortened my time to get everything published. And it shortened the time to, me having to find, interview 20 different editors and all these things. So again, I looked at, what do I need? Okay, I need an editor. I need a cover design person. I need a layout person. And luckily with the consultant, she was able to put me in touch with some people. Some people I found on my own. And then as far as the self-publishing process, getting things on Amazon, it's really not that challenging. When you go on Amazon and read the information on how to self-publish, it's just a stepwise process that you have to follow. But one thing that I did to help defray those costs is I did a Kickstarter campaign, a crowdfunding campaign about my book, about iSpark Change, and helping to get iSpark Change going, because I was building out websites and things like that. And I was able to raise just over $5,000 in that Kickstarter campaign, which helped, defray a lot of the costs. But I guess the bottom line is I wouldn't let cost keep anyone from writing or publishing, because there are ways that literally you can get a book written and published for less than $1,000. Like you could have a book done, edited, depending on, who edit. You find someone to edit it for you as opposed to using a professional editor. Like there's ways. I've read, tons of material out there about, creative ways to get a book published, on a budget.
That's super exciting to hear. So there is no more excuses. It's time for everyone to take action. And in the middle of a pandemic, when the world is shut down, here you were still able to be creative in a financial aspect and in an inspiring writing aspect. It's awe-inspiring. It really is.
Well, thank you. I just felt I was being guided to do what I was supposed to do. Honestly, everything fell into place just magically. And that's why I think there was more divine inspiration and divine timing with everything, because it was just so perfect. I'll give you an example is editing can take months. The editing process can take, minimum of 2 months, sometimes 4, or 6 months for a professional editor to go through the book, 2 times or maybe 3 times. And I found an editor that, by a referral from another editor that I had been put in touch with, who did it all in 2 weeks. She did everything in a couple of weeks. And this editor, he told me, he's like, she's one of the fastest editors I know. She had done some work for him. And he's like, she does excellent work. And she's just very quick. She's very quick at what, and I'd spoken to other people. They're like, yeah, I can't get to this until this was like August. I'm interviewing these people and people are like, oh, I can't even start it until November. I can't even start. And I was like, oh, well, that means next year. I was originally thinking January of 2021 for a release date. And then when things started falling into place, I'm like, oh, we can get it out in October. We can get it out before the election and holidays and all this stuff. And so there's, when there's a will, there's a way, I guess, to use the old cliche. And you just have to find the right people out there.
Yeah, that's excellent. Divine timing, following the universe, following your passion in your heart, and anything is possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there a moment when you look back over life, even the last 20 years since your process started for you, is there one moment that you are most proud of?
Wow, that's an excellent question. I don't know if anyone's ever asked me that question. What I'm most proud of is my children beyond anything else. I'm most proud of my kids. So I can't really say that there's one moment. I'd say that it's hard to measure any of the moments, for them that I'm proud of, because there's just so many. So I wouldn't, nail it down to one. For myself, I would say, just going through this transformation, that I have in the past year, to become a different person, to become a better person, I feel, to write my book, to start iSpark Change, to essentially, take action and do something that I know will impact, many, many people. I mean, at iSpark Change, my goal is to impact 1 billion people in the next 5 years. So 1 billion people, which is a huge goal. And I feel that I'm on a path where it can happen. So I guess just being on that path is what I'm most proud of.
And you are on quite the path. And I'm sure, between the book and through iChange, there's no reason you can't hit a few billion people. Why not? Look at what you were able to do in the middle of a pandemic when the whole world shut down. So, 1 billion people is no big deal for you. Really?
Well, thank you, Jennifer. I see that, Facebook has like 2.8 billion members or something like that. And even like TikTok's over 1 billion in a very short period of time. And I was like, there's so many other platforms that they impact a lot of people, and oftentimes not in a positive way. And so I think the world is ready to have, a platform that can have a positive impact on the masses, and that's what I want to evolve iSpark Change into, is the world's first social media platform that connects anyone, individuals, organizations, nonprofits, companies, whomever, that are making the world a better place, connecting them in one place where it's just this huge database where people can connect and support one another and find out about what someone is doing on the other side of the world, and support them from afar or help them in some capacity, whether it's knowledge or time or financially in all different ways. And that just doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. There's lots of smaller versions of what I'm describing. There's not even really a social media platform in the top 100 in the world that it doesn't exist, but there's smaller groups on, Facebook, for example, or smaller, groups that do what I'm talking about, but there's not one global, clearinghouse that has everything in one place. And that's what I'm working to create. It's just this one central hub for everyone to be a part of.
I, for one, will sign up. I'm super excited. I would love to be part of a high vibration, positive app that's out there that can help connect, soul family, connect people and help get everyone together.
Soul family, it's a perfect way to describe it.
Yeah, we need that desperately. So I'm excited for that change. So we're coming to the time in the show, Rick, where I ask this one special question. Are you ready?
I am ready.
What is one thing that no one knows about you?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask this question. I'd say one thing that no one really knows is that when I was younger, being like chubby little kid and, not the nerdy kid or whatever, is that I struggled so much with self-confidence that I always tried to, overplay that, be overconfident and everything like that. And people always say, even tell me now, they're like, oh, you're so confident and you have everything going and things are going great and everything. And I think that just comes from the place of being that, little kid with no confidence, right? That was just struggling and just trying to outgrow that and still trying to outgrow that to this day.
Yeah, that's very touching. Thank you for sharing that. And will you share with our listeners, where is the best place for them to get in touch with you, find out more about iChange, and to purchase your book?
As far as the book, it's on Amazon, it's on Goodreads and Google, and they can find it anywhere just searching 12 Hours of Heaven. There's a Kindle and a paperback version, not an audio version yet. That is something that I would like to get done eventually, get an audiobook. The website is iSparkChange. So the letter I and then sparkchange.com. And if they go to iSparkChange on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, they will find our social channels. We share daily inspiration, motivation, spiritual content on a daily basis. So they can follow us and they'll receive all that content. And then they'll find more about what we're working on with iSparkChange and the different things. And they hear about, podcast interviews like this, so they can support those folks and see our social impact hero campaign and everything. So there's just a lot going on there that they will like if they go check it out.
How exciting. Well, thank you. And as always, all of the links in your website and information will be over in our show notes, so everyone can hop over to jenniferpilates.com and find all of that as well. Well, Rick, I want to thank you so much for being here today. I've really been looking forward to this. This has been great, especially after reading your book. And I am so thrilled to hear that not only is there a second book, but potentially 5 more. You've made my day. You might have made my year.
Wow. Well, thank you very much, Jennifer. It's been a pleasure to be on your show, and I've really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, as we say, until next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to Empowered Within with Jennifer Pilates. Your feedback is important. It helps me to connect with you and gives me insight into who you are and what you're enjoying about the show. For today's show notes and discount codes from today's sponsors, head over to jenniferpilates.com. Until next time, may you live an empowered life from within.